Namaskar. This is Bharanigaran from CSA. My roll number is 19013. So, I'm going to talk about the architecture of Android operating system. So, I'll be talking about the various layers of this architecture. So, first of all, what is Android and what is its history? Android is like any other operating system which is mostly used on mobile phones. Hmm. It is based on a modified version of Linux kernel and some other open source software. This development was started in 2003 by an American company called Android Inc. to develop an operating system for camera, not for a mobile phone. But later in 2005, it was acquired by this project was acquired by Google, and Google is still maintaining this project. Uh, but even if it is owned by Google, it is maintained by Google. It is not owned by Google. It is still open source, which means anyone can download the source code of this operating system and they can modify it to for them accordingly. Say if a company needs a specific operation with this OS, they can download the source code and they can modify the source code and they can keep it for themselves. So what's inside this Android? Like any other OS, this also got a bunch of codes, but those codes are uh, divided into different layers, which we are calling it as architecture. These layers will make it easy for the developers, for example, for developers to maintain the project. For example, developers working on making apps don't have to worry about the application framework implementation. And developers working on drivers like Bluetooth drivers, camera drivers don't need to worry about the problems in application layer. So that's how it works. By this way, Android layered structure make it easy possible to apply updates with bug fixes or improvements to each layer on its own. This ensures that mm, changes across layers don't interfere with each other. This make it possible for people working at different level of the operating system with abstract without abstracting each other. Like I have to make a change in this part of the code. uh, I can make a change in that part of the code without affecting the rest of the code in the operating system. That's how it works. So what are those layers I was talking about? So Android composes of four layers. It is divided into four layers. One is application layer, another one is application framework, uh, Android runtime and core libraries, and Linux kernel. So what is application layer? Like it's mentioned, it is user level. This is the layer that the end user, which is us, interact with. It is on this layer where application developer publish their application to Android by default comes with a set of applications. If you have used Android Studio or something like that, uh, you know what are those, like home, contact, messages, email, browser, notification drive. As the name suggests, these are like apps which are default by default supported by Android. Other apps are done with the updates and based on the company and those kind of things. So these application developers create and customize the experience for their apps on this layer. This layer below the application layer are customized by application layer, which are application framework layer, libraries, and kernel. So application developers can work on this layer, which means Android developers. Then application framework. To develop an app, we need a framework to work with. Like to work with Ruby, you need Ruby on Rails. So the Ruby on Rails is a framework for Ruby. Uh, so in simple words, Android framework includes Android APIs such as UI, telephony. Telephony resource means telephony means the one which helps us to make call in our Android device. Location, which is work with GPS, content providers, data, and package managers. The framework exposes a safe and uniform means to utilize Android devices resources for the developers. This part of the architecture contains many managers such as Activity Manager, Window Manager, Location Manager. Look, as the name suggests, uh, these are the managers which helps the apps to run efficiently or or perfectly. Yeah. Telephone manager, as the name suggests, is used for making calls. Location manager, GPS. View manager, UI. Notification manager or notification. Package manager and content package manager updates. So this is application framework. Next one is Android runtime and core libraries. For the framework to run, we need libraries, a bunch of libraries to for the framework to run. So that's how the framework works. So those libraries are in this layer. Core libraries for Android or set of utilities that help you with permissions, device location, and connectivity within your Android project. With this library, you can check for request, respond to any number of Android system permissions such as device location or camera. Yeah, or a camera permission, system permission like microphone permission, those kind of things. It contains components like core libraries and the Dalvik virtual machine (DVM). Mainly, it provides the base for the application framework and powers our application with the help of core libraries. So these core libraries enable us to implement Android application using Kotlin and Java. Most of the Android, most yeah, I think most of the Android developments are done using Kotlin and Java only. Linux kernel. Uh, Linux kernel, we already know about this from our operating system course. Here also it's the same. Linux kernel is the heart of any operating system. Kernel is the heart of any operating system. So it manages all the available drivers such as, so it have three main duties. It will manage the drivers, uh, then it will manage the memory, then it will manage the processes, like we studied in the operating system course. So Linux kernel is the heart of Android architecture. It manages all the available drivers such as display driver for UI, camera driver, obviously camera, Bluetooth driver, which is for Bluetooth connectivity. Uh, like we are connecting Bluetooth with a laptop and headphone or our gaming console or like audio drivers, memory drivers, etc., which are required during the runtime. Every app in Android runs in a process. So the kernel is responsible for managing the process, like we studied in the operating system course. Uh, this means it is responsible for creating, pausing, stopping, killing process. The kernel enables variable functionalities such as running multiple processes at the same time, like parallel processing, for example, communication between processes like pipes and shared memory for inter-process communication, running process in the background like we are running multiple apps on our mobile phone or laptop, and so on. So then the next responsibility of the Android or Linux kernel is memory management. As different applications run, the kernel should ensure the memory space they use doesn't conflict and do overwrite each other. Uh, and it means a app should not get more memory or less memory. It should get the adequate memory it requires. So this is also a major responsibility of the kernel. The kernel is the heart of the operating system. So these are the various Android architecture. First one is application, application framework, Android runtime and core library, Linux kernel. So this is my presentation about the Android architecture. Thank you. Thank you.